Good morning, adventurous parents. How are you today? And I wanted to give a very warm welcome to our special guest, Mr. Wes King. Wes, can you
Hi,
introduce
everybody.
yourself to the Adventurous Parents Group?
Absolutely. My name is Wesley King. I just turned 40 years old. I've got two kids and a wife and dog at home, and I'm excited to be here and help share my story and be involved with the Adventurous Parents and see if we can learn and grow together.
Very cool, very cool. And it's neat with this community. It's kind of all over the country. Home base is outside of Chicago, right?
Yeah, Evanston, born and raised in Peoria, Midwest, but worked all over and right now in Chicago and been there since '02, really, actually, on and
Okay.
off.
Very
Yeah.
cool. Very cool. So yeah, I wanted to have you on as a guest. I know you are everything aquatics when it comes to home pools, commercial pools, medically based wellness centers. We initially got connected with the Medical Fitness Association a few years back when I was running two medically based wellness centers. We were both part of the MFA as the Medical Fitness Association. And I actually saw Wes as a speaker, which is pretty cool, over at one of the New Jersey clubs. So yeah, I just wanted to showcase you on here and talk about aquatics in general and swimming, because where we are in Pennsylvania right now, it's very cold. So nobody is swimming outside. And
Right.
one of the things that we covered in one of my courses in my master's program was wellness in the school settings. And it talked about different sports and activities. And I thought it was a really interesting discussion. And you and I started talking about this of the sports that we learn in school growing up are wonderful, and we learn about teamwork and the rules of volleyball and baseball and soccer, lacrosse, some of these bigger team sports, and that's wonderful. But after high school, we don't really have many opportunities to engage in that kind of activity,
Right.
unless we're part of a very specific rec league,
hmm
which
Or the
from what I've
skill for that matter, too. We often don't have the
right,
skill to keep
right.
performing either.
Right. So something like swimming is more along the lines of walking or jogging or hiking,
Mhm.
where it can be a lifelong hobby. You had mentioned golf a little bit earlier.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to share kind of your story of, you kind of grew up with the water, how that's been a part of your life and how that's a part of your family life now as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know it's kind of ironic, right? We're talking about swimming and to Adventurous Parents Groups in the middle of winter, and why is this relevant? Well, it's relevant because we don't often think about it. And you bring up a great point from not only the exercise standpoint, but the educational and the spirit side of things. This isn't a conversation about you've got to get your kids in swim lessons. It's not even a conversation about you've got to get your kids in ISR or the next thing that's coming up. It's a conversation about the approach behind how we look at pools. And one of the things I do a lot, Ryan, when I do public speaking, is I bring a box or bring a figure with that could be a pool, but it's empty. And I ask the audience, whether it's lifeguards or parents or a community event or even police departments, what would you do with this space if there was no water in it? And I've had people come up with art classes, karate classes, they do yoga mats. It's just an in-ground hole, but
Okay.
we put water in it. And so it helps people change the way they think about that space, from drowning prevention, which I do in programs and classes, and we'll talk about in a minute, but also just the fact that you have a community or a HOA or a local town with a fitness center or rec center with a hole with four walls and water in it. Now, what do? We have swim lessons for kids in the middle of winter, in the middle of summer. We have water aerobics programs for seniors. We have pre-post rehab, which is where you and I came in, the medical fitness side. But literally all the pool is just four walls, a floor, and water. That's it. So you can do whatever you want with it. So part of what I do with parents and lifeguards and programs is I go around the country. I speak with different groups remotely and in person, and we talk about that concept, from water safety and educating families at homes and home pools and doing fun activities so that your kid doesn't go in the water without you, to knowing what to look for when you go to a hotel and you smell chlorine and you realize that that's actually not normal and that's problematic. And maybe even some phrasing to use when you get to your hotel front desk. And you say, "Hey, I smell chlorine." And the front desk goes, "Yeah, me too. It's been here since we started." Um, so these are things that don't have to do with your health club, don't have to do with selling memberships. They have to do with solving the number one cause of death of children in this country that's not medical, and that's drowning. More children drown today every year than they did 25 years ago.
Wow.
10 people die in this country, 7 adults, 3 children a day from drowning
Wow.
in the United States. Another 50 end up in a hospital from a water-related injury, illness, or incident, from a chlorine spill to a slip and fall, which is, by the way, the #1 lawsuit in the country is slip and falls. So really what I want to do is give you and I an opportunity to talk to parents and say things like this. If you have a home pool and it's the middle of winter, you should take a stick or a piece of metal or something heavy and pound on the ice in your home pool today in Pennsylvania to make sure that that ice is thick, so that if your child does or a neighbor does get on it, they're not going to fall through. And if it isn't thick, you should make sure that you have a second layer of protection over that ice. Like, there's a real life actionable thing that a parent listening today could go do in their home pool in the middle of winter. I have relatives in Peoria, Illinois, where I'm from, that that ice skate on their home pool. But they
Okay.
only do it when they go out 3 different times over a span of 7 days and hammer the living you-know-what out of that ice and make sure they do it 3 different times where they let their kids go on it. So,
Wow.
in Peoria, it's 50 degrees one day, it's 19 degrees another day.
Sure.
Again, so that's the intention here, is to give tangible, meaningful actions and education to anybody listening, and not shove swimming down somebody's throat, right? I'm a baseball junkie. I've swum 1 competitive swim event in my entire life. I was the 9th fastest 35-year-old male in the state of Illinois. My swim
There you
team needed a
go.
35-year-old sprinter. They got one. I retired 5 years ago. Top 10. So
Nice.
anyway, I'll kind of divert from there, but that's how I wanted to set it up and let everybody know that, there's things you can do to make yourself safer around water.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, you touched on hotels, and a lot of people are traveling this time of the year. Tell me a little bit more about that. Am I not supposed to be able to smell chlorine when I walk into a hotel?
Yeah, that's right. So I'll give you some reference. So first thing is, I was humble enough with my wife to manage the nation's largest water park. In Wisconsin Dells, the home water park capital of the country, I managed the Wilderness Resort after a drowning. That was 11 years ago. That's 350 lifeguards up at one time, 7 water parks running at one time.
Wow.
The idea being is that if 8,000 guests are in 7 different water parks and 7 different water parks smell like chlorine, we have a massive problem. If you go to your local Holiday Inn or Marriott, it doesn't matter what name or brand, I've worked for a few of them, and you walk in that lobby and you get this big whiff of chlorine, or you see a green pool, or you see a handicap lift chair that you have to operate yourself, all of those are direct health violations, and there's many more. But the idea is that you as a parent are prompted with specific cues to know when to take action. So I go to my hotel, I'm traveling, I'm on awesome vacation. I don't even use the pool, but I'm on the 3rd floor and I'm in the elevator and I smell chlorine. Like that campfire smell. I wrote a blog about it, actually. We all know what it smells like. What do? You can swim. Yes, you can swim. If the water's not cloudy and you can breathe, you can swim. You're not in it for every day, 24 hours. You don't invest in Kohl's stock like I do, because your shirts burn of chlorine so often that you need to buy more clothes shirts. Okay? So you can swim. But what you can also do is ask for a chemical check. You can say, hey, do you smell that? You can ask what kind of chemicals they use, so that if something happens, let's say your kid gets a red rash. Let's say you have a hard time breathing a few days later, and you call your doctor and you say, I was in hotel blank. They told me they use X. I made them check Y. Here's what happened. 1, maybe you have a lawsuit on your hands and you can win. And 2, you have information to tell your doctor. Most times, and I ran these hotels and I worked these cases legally, most times somebody goes into a pool, hotel or otherwise, they come out, their eyes are red, their skin's burning, their kid's crying, maybe their hair burns off, that's true. And they go to their doctor and the doctor says, well, what happened? They said, well, I was in a pool. Well, did you shower after? I think so. We don't consciously think about how we're using the water.
Okay.
If we go to a basketball court and we sprain our ankle, we can tell somebody what happened. If we go down a ski lift and we twist our knee, we can tell somebody what happened. But if we go into a pool and we have a non-traditional reaction, meaning we don't sprain our ankle or we didn't bump our head on the flip turn, we can't tell anybody anything because we don't know enough. We don't ask enough questions because we assume that the the company, the pool, the fitness center is complying with general regulations. Well, here's the last piece on this subject when you ask about hotels. Every state is different. I have a client in the state of Kansas I'm going to later this week, a healthcare client. They have a hospital with a pool. In the state of Kansas, the pool health inspector comes around once a year for about 10 minutes. That's the
Wow.
compliance standards. So we have to learn as parents that there are minimal regulations. There's only one law in the entire United States that governs pools, the Virginia Graham law. It's a drain law that you have to have a non-entrapment drain because a girl named Virginia Graham got sucked by a drain. It's very tragic. That's the only law in the United
Wow.
States that covers all 50 states and every pool. But we as
Wow.
parents go in and believe that there's regulations. There's not. So we
Wow.
have to be powerful and be empowered to speak up.
Right.
So
So when I walk into that hotel and I smell the chlorine, does that mean the concentration is too high?
it could mean a lot of things, but it means the filtering is probably off, meaning that the water isn't being circulated enough, which means
Okay.
it's not getting filtered enough. Or you're more so what you're saying is the individual responsible for that pool probably has 20 other pools they're responsible for because it's probably a hotel chain. And yes, I'm being very generic here, and I apologize if anybody runs hotels and is hear this and is offended. But, right, so they have 20 pools to do. They have to dump a bunch of chlorine in each pool before every Friday night when the pools are busy, and they have to redo it every Monday morning. They don't have time to drain the pools. They don't have time to drain the hot tubs. So they come in, they over-chlorinate, and they under-circulate, which means you have a pool of high concentrated chemicals in an unair filtered, unwater filtered place that isn't staffed, that isn't managed, that doesn't have an emergency phone, that may or may not have nationally covered signs, and you're putting your child in that. I
Right.
swim in hotel pools. My wife teaches in a hotel pool. My children swim in all. I'm not saying don't swim. I'm saying think differently about how you see a body of water.
Right. And be really with the kids and be very present,
Yeah.
not playing on the phone, not
Uh,
just, oh, there's two of you,
yeah.
go have fun. Like be
Oh
engaged, get
man.
in the pool yourself. Yeah.
So to that point, you don't have to hire me, right? There's countless free things. Poolsafety.gov or .org. It's free. You can get a little lanyard that goes around your neck for free, sent to your house. You can do them for birthday parties and say, I'm a pool watcher. So I wear it around my neck. I don't drink. I don't party. I'm a pool watcher. When I want to go do that, I take it off. I give it to Ryan. Ryan watches the kids. That way, every other parent sees somebody with a nice, bright, shiny lanyard or a workman's coat, something that says for 10 minutes, I'm not going to do anything else. I'm
Oh,
just going to
wow. I
stand here
love
and
that.
watch,
Yeah.
right? That's free stuff. So, and I'll spin real quick to the home pool piece because I think that's really important for a lot of parents here because you might not have a home pool, but you might swim in somebody's home pool. I was raised in an in-ground pool in my backyard. I was very fortunate. It looked like Mr. Miyagi's backyard, in-ground pool. Okay. There are activities that you can do that prevent drowning. One, put stop signs up on every access that you have your home pool in. Nice big stop signs from your front gate to your sliding glass door to your doggy door. And then have all of your children and your neighborhood children make handprints in paint and put their hand print next to that stop sign. So it's not one red stop sign. It's all the children that have been in the neighborhood or that swim in your pool or your family or your friends that put their handprint next to the stop sign and then
Okay.
have them write their name on it. Right? The old mantra, you've got a master's degree. Say it, do it, see it, act it, believe it, understand it, right? I'm participating
Right.
in
To
the
really
safety drill.
reinforce. Right.
Right. Second is find a safe place near, not too close to the pool, but on a deck, on a concrete area, in the grass, near a fence, and paint your favorite logo. If it's the Cubs, which is mine, or Superman, or Paw Patrol, paint your kid's favorite logo or team or phrase, and put it on the ground. Paint your grass, paint your fence, and that's your safety zone. That's where they stay. That's where they hold on to. That's where their hands go. That's where their tushy sits when you're not ready for them to get in the pool. These are things
I
that
love
mean
that.
something
Yeah.
to them, right? You could do as a neighborhood. You could do your favorite, your local high school football team, whatever. So those are two, and there's a lot more, but those are two tangible things. Actively get your neighbors and your family and your friends participating in the safety protocols. Yes, put a fence up. Yes, put a drain up. Yes, put a lid over your pool. Yes, have an alarm system, right? but none of those are interactive with the kids. None of
Right.
those
They're
tell the
static.
kids
Yeah.
that they are the component of this. So
Right.
handprints and stop signs and a special, specific place that they put their bodies when they're not ready to go in the pool are two tangible home pool safety actions.
Yeah. Yeah. And I love the lanyard idea. We'll have to post that in the comments below.
Right.
But
Yeah.
I totally see that being a wonderful resource at a barbecue where it's
Oh,
maybe
right.
there's 5 kids playing in the pool, everybody's at the grill or the cooler, but to have one person designated as a safety person, I think that's wonderful. Thank you
We
for
used to
that.
put
Yeah.
it in a brown bag, and you'd have to look at the draw, and you'd have to pick the name out of the hat.
Okay.
So then everybody kind of stood around and waited to see what happens. And these things I'm talking about with the hand signs and logos, some communities have Instagrammed it, where they would have little competitions between all the home pools to see who could have the coolest logo design or the coolest
Wow.
handprint. So again, you don't have to do it just internally. You can make it something part, especially if your community has a lot of home pools. So
That's wonderful.
yeah,
Very
and
cool.
poolsafely.gov will definitely link up with them. And like I said, I've trained over 3,000 lifeguards. I've had over 20,000 kids in my swim programs. Humbly enough, they've won national awards. But
Nice.
this is about the mentality. This is about how do
Right.
I think about a body of water. So
Right. Yeah, this is wonderful. I really appreciate this. We could probably talk for 2 hours as we have leading up to
no,
this
not
call.
no,
So
mate. Yeah,
yeah, we'll definitely have you back as a
yeah,
guest. And when the
absolutely.
spring comes, when the weather starts to get warmer, we can maybe do another one of these videos about opening your pool, what to look for,
Mm-hmm.
all about safety because we
Yeah.
love our
When you
kiddos.
go,
And,
oh,
that's especially like you mentioned, that's such a high rate in this country. Let's try to
yeah.
prevent whatever we can.
The American Academy of Pediatrics actually just declared it last year an epidemic. Drowning is an
Wow.
epidemic. Yeah. So,
Wow.
but absolutely, we can talk about springtime and pool openings. When you go to a pool, what to look for. So I look forward to that conversation as well.
Yeah, definitely. And then you had mentioned a resource you wanted to share with the group. Can you tell me a little bit about that real quick?
Yeah, so poolsafely.gov is one. Another, if you're interested about learning more, you can go to my website, which is rippleeffect.co, www.rippleaffect with an AFFECT.co. But there's several others. There's the National Drowning Prevention. There's the Medical Fitness Association. I think, Ryan, maybe we can put a list up of all
Sure.
the locations that a parent could go to. We can even customize it to the East Coast. We just go to websites and not necessarily learn about the tragedies, because those are hard to swallow, believe me, but about the actions that you can take and the
Yeah, to
success
be
stories.
proactive. Right.
Yeah, and how to
Yeah.
prevent it.
Yeah.
So
And you had
there's a
mentioned a
few.
worksheet, right? That you have?
Yeah, so there's a home pool risk assessment.
Right.
Absolutely. And we'll have that on the website, or Ryan, however you want to distribute it. But it's basically a checklist that you can have for your local fitness center that you can bring with you and just put it in your pocket and have it, or your home pool. But it's a checklist of itemized processes to go through, from chemicals to safety to service to contracting, who's managing your pools. And it's free. And it's the idea of bringing awareness to parents in a tangible manner that says, I have a pool, or I swim in a local pool, and I want to make sure these things are happening so that I can prevent drowning, but also reduce risk and increase usage.
Right. Right.
Yeah, it's a
This is
home pool risk
wonderful.
assessment. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That would be a great resource. And then the last question, and, I want to respect your time as well. If a kid is exposed to, say, let's go to that hotel or we go to Disney or something, and we have too much of that chlorine. I know my son has had some red eyes and some coughing in the
Mm.
past. What do you do for that? And how do you relay your
Yeah.
information to the doctor?
Right. So don't take it lightly. Dry drowning exists. Post incidents exist. Rashes exist. Burning exists. Don't take it lightly. Call your doctor. Call the facility you were in. Find out when the last time they checked their chemicals. Find out who they're governed by. Find out who the pool management company is. The truth is, Ryan, in a lawsuit, everybody's named. The
Right.
lifeguard that worked yesterday is named. The pool company's named. So don't assume that it was something else. Your child has red eyes. Don't assume it's allergies. Don't
Right.
assume that they put the wrong lotion on. When it comes to aquatics, assume something isn't right. 2 years ago, 400 pools in the state that I live in Illinois, got shut down. 400. Now, most of them reopened, but got shut down for a health violation. Health inspectors are restaurateurs. They just follow a checklist. Don't assume that the environment your child is swimming in or you're swimming in is compliant. Again, not damning my own reputation or my own business, but the rules and policies just aren't there.
Right.
So your doctor, where you swam, any medical history, don't assume that you are swimming in a safe environment, which is scary,
Yeah.
but it's true.
Right. Yeah. No, that's
Yeah,
a
good
that's a
question
proactive
though, because it
approach,
happens.
and
Yeah, yeah.
yeah. No, these are wonderful tools, and thank you. This has been wonderful. We'll share all the information in the comments below. And Wes, we appreciate your time. Thank you for being
Absolutely.
here.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate being here.
Yeah. Bye bye.